You are watching the Deadfoot Diver podcast with Curt, the Deadfoot Diver.
Welcome to the Deadfoot Diver podcast. My name's Curt, the Deadfoot Diver, and I'm very pleased to have with me today a legend in the diving industry, Jennifer Idle, who is a world famous photographer, a member of the Explorers Club, and she is also the marketing manager for Avelo Dive Systems. How's it going, Jennifer?
It's going great. Thank you for having me on the show.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. It's great to have you here.
You really oversell, I think, the world famous for anyone who works underwater. We are a very passionate industry. Don't know
That
about
is
world.
true.
Yeah, I don't know about world famous for any of us so much as we're all trying to do good out there in the world.
That is true. And you've done an amazing amount of stuff. I mean, tell me, first of all, how you got interested in diving.
It's a long road. I've been diving since I was a kid. I've been in love with the water my whole life. So I'm a native Texan, but I also lived in Florida with family. So I was experienced to both worlds. And it is in Texas where I became a diver and first did my ocean dive, actually, not in Texas. My first open water ocean dive was in Mexico.
Ah, cool. Where in Mexico did you do it?
Cozumel in Chancanab Lagoon, back when it was a real destination.
Nice. I have been to Cozumel. Twice. I've been snorkeling. I have not been diving yet because of my eye infection I got last time I was there. So but Cozumel's on my list. I want to go back and do, especially in November, and do the bull shark dive that they
Oh, that sounds
have
exciting.
there, mating grounds. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to doing that. I'm not sure when I'm going to do it, but it's on my list again for sure.
I'd love to
So,
see your footage.
yeah. So then how did you decide to get into professional diving and take this as a career?
I love being in the water. I've loved the sensation of what it feels like. And I love introducing that to other people. So, to become a professional in the industry, my first thought was to help people do that. How do you do that? You guide them as a dive master, you help them as a dive guide, and you instruct them as a dive instructor. So, I started down that path first in my professional underwater career.
Wow, cool. And I mean, you run trips like all over the place. You're traveling like crazy doing stuff, aren't you?
I lead 6 trips a year with Big Fish Expeditions, and I leave next Tuesday for a combo trip, partly for Avelo as the marketing director on a film shoot for a new course that we're working on, as well as just some diving with Rainbow Reef Dive Center, who is an Avelo Dive Center. And then I head to Tiger Beach for a Tiger Beach trip with Big Fish Expedition. Big smiles all around for the lovely ladies at Tiger Beach. And by that, I mean the big pregnant tiger sharks.
Yeah. I've watched videos of Tiger Beach. It looks amazing. It's definitely like one of my on my list of things to do for diving is go dive at Tiger Beach. So how many times a year do you usually go to Tiger Beach?
Tiger Beach is an annual trip. So the trips we schedule are during peak season for each animal encounter. And that typically leaves you with one trip a year in each destination, coming back the next season to see more of the behavior and activity. Animals are unpredictable, and at the same time, they follow patterns. And with the changing climate, we're also responding all the time to things that are changing. And then you ask some scientists, depending on the animals and what you're doing, there are different studies as to the effect of the moon on animal behavior.
I've heard that actually.
It's true. So we'll schedule certain trips during a full moon or a new moon. And it's usually the extreme, one or the other, that we try to hit.
Wow, that's really cool. So do you find that their behavior does vary?
The behavior definitely varies. I mean, I've seen weird things happening with our climate for years now. I mentioned Chankanaab Lagoon. When I went there used to be 300-pound grouper and big lively corals. And It's not what you would see today if you went to Chonkanab. It's not where I would send you. And the same is true. Things are now changing so rapidly. I'm seeing animals where they shouldn't be, animals that should be there, not where they should be. Temperatures doing crazy things. One year in Mexico with the whale sharks, I think it was the same year they had that big heat wave in Florida waters. The water was just extremely warm. And that does crazy things for things like the whale sharks are there to feed. So, what does that do for all the roe that they're trying to eat during that feed season for when fish release their roe? So, there's a lot of upstream, downstream effects.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I noticed I went to Cozumel twice in 2023. I went in April and I went in November. And I was actually even shocked at the difference just of the reef between that time period on the damage to it and stuff. And not only that, the lack of animals, there sea creatures that there were compared to before. I didn't even see near as many turtles that time when we went to Cozumel as we did the first time. It was actually pretty shocking. And I know that when I went to Jamaica in November, they were all saying the same thing. Like, there was a guy on our boat. He'd been going to that same resort for the last 30 years. And he said that he couldn't believe the lack of fish. And even lionfish, there wasn't as many lionfish.
There's a lot going on. You also have human stressors. When you have climate stressors, with the effects of what we're doing there, there's also the fishing, whether that's recreational or commercial, or poaching in some cases of certain species, like juvenile turtles or turtle eggs, or there's, depending on what species you're talking about, there are behaviors of take from the ocean that have negative effects.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, have you found is there still a fair amount of like illegal hunting for turtles and stuff like that?
In Mexico.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. And is it illegal to actually harvest them or no there? Or are they
Yeah, it's
not protected?
illegal, but
They're protected.
regulations are only as effective as enforcement.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like anything. I mean, and let's face it, there's not a lot of dive police around.
There's a lot of struggles. There's a lot of challenges. People are economically stressed, and to meet economic needs, people fall under certain pressures put onto them by other people who will pay them to engage in behaviors that may not help their local environment. And that's something that some conservation organizations work with local populations to help them develop an economy that doesn't depend on the take. It depends on other things. That's where Bahamas is such a great example of shark stewardship. People come there to observe the sharks as opposed to hunt the sharks. And it's a beautiful thing because that shark can continue to give for years and years and years. If you take the shark, it's gone. And then you lose an industry. So there's benefits to some of the ecotourism that's out there.
So I do have one question about shark diving, which I mean, I've always wondered on this, maybe as a parent, and since you're a professional diver and a parent, you can mention that, bring some light on this to me. What do you think about having a child that's like 10 years old in the water with sharks when they're feeding them?
I think my first thought is, how capable are they as a waterman ship, as a person, and how independently capable? With sharks, that's different. We do have a 12-year-old minimum at Big Fish expeditions. So 10 would be underage for that. I'm not sure they would be able to have the independent thought that you want. It depends on the kid. So you don't want to limit people necessarily. It depends on their competencies. There's exceptions to everything. And as a parent, you make the choice for your kid and their capabilities. I mean, at 10, you're just getting into diving. There are experiences you can have with sharks that maybe you're not taking them on a feed. You're taking them to observe sharks.
I don't know. I mean, they had at where is it in the Bahamas? Atlantis, I guess. They have the shark tank where you can go in and do it with a helmet on. and they had a kid, I think he was like 8, and he got bit.
Oh, wow.
Like,
Yeah.
you didn't
I
hear
mean,
about that?
there are so many things happening, and I'm a little busy. I will say the first thing you told me about was contained in a tank. These are now a different behavior. They're not in the wild. They're not free to escape and do what they would like to do. They are captive. There's a lot that's going to change that shark's behavior in that situation to begin with. That's very
Oh, yeah.
different from a feed out in the wild. The shark chooses to come in, and there is a certain predictability. We were talking before this podcast started about currents. When you feed sharks, they sniff the air or water, um, and they can tell where that scent trail is going, and they follow the scent trail to the source of the food. That's how they hunt. Well, if you're in a tank, my question goes, where's the current going? Where's the scent trail going? Did that shark get confused? How erratic were the humans behaving in that tank? So there's a lot of questions that come up with me. So, is it about sharks getting fed with a youngster that is the question here? Or is it about the whole situation and environment in which you introduce to that?
Yeah, I guess you're right, because I never thought about the fact of how much the shark's behavior is going to be changed by being captive instead of being out in the wild.
And they're
So,
used to getting fed. Yeah, I've seen different aquariums have different policies too. We have Texas State Aquarium. They've got big booms. It's not hand fed. It's not hand dropped. So that association isn't there. So there's I'd like to see more science on. It's a very contentious topic, feeding sharks, and there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions on this particular topic. If you're really changing their behavior, is it positive? Is it negative? How do you bait the water? I think there are conscientious ways to do things in using scents, like not overly chumming the water, not just having random blood, but being more purposeful and thoughtful about how you're engaging. Never mind that all shark species are a little bit different, just like all dogs have a little bit different depending on the breed of dog you have. You breed them for their temperament. The species of sharks, they have different temperaments too.
so that brings me to my next question about that. Out of all the types of sharks that you deal with on a regular basis, what is the one that you are like more concerned about when you're in the water with them?
It's not going to be your tigers and bulls, which is what people are going to expect, because
Which is surprising, because that would have been my first answer, is tigers and bulls, from what I've heard.
because of the incident reports. And you also look at statistics and numbers, how few reports there are versus reports of other things. How many safe encounters do we have where nothing happens and I'm engaged in a feed with a tiger shark? That being said, we do not feed the bull sharks. So there are different things that you do with different sharks. And vision is a concern. How much can the shark see? Is it dawn? Is it dusk? Is there low visibility where they are? Bull sharks tend to be at the mouths of rivers where it's brackish, where you have salt and fresh water mixing. So some of this is us as a species learning how other species move and work, and then using that to be safe. It's well documented all along the Florida coast and the California coast. People swim with sharks all around them all the time. I was recently
Oh,
shooting
yeah.
our Protected Waters series with Alex Rose, another filmmaker, photographer, underwater, and I was doing the drone work on leopard sharks, and there were people out there on surfboards paddling out to find the sharks because they're beloved, and they didn't find them. I had the drone up over them because I was filming all the sharks that were around them.
Oh, I
They
gotta
came
see
back.
that video.
They came back in and they were like, "Well, what's going on? Why was the drone there?" I was like, "Because the sharks were there." They were like, "We were trying to find them."
So how many sharks were circling around these guys?
Oh, 30 or 40 sharks. They're super cute sharks, the leopard sharks. They're beloved animals. They're tiny. I mean, they're skinny. They're like that big around, and I don't know, maybe
Okay.
5 foot at their length. There's different size sharks, and I think We look at things through the lens of how does a predator threaten us as a species, as opposed to thinking, how does that animal behave? That's what we educate people on when I lead trips. How is this animal going to behave? How can I have a great encounter with them? And especially, how can I enjoy and capture and share images of this animal and tell their story?
Yeah, which is awesome. So I mean, what do you have for tips for somebody who's just going on a shark dive for the first time?
Wear a hood, wear gloves, black hood, full wetsuit. You always in the ocean want to have your full body covered anyway. There's lots of stingy stuff in the water to begin with. So at a minimum, I always wear a skin in the water. You won't see me out there rocking a bikini going, "Hey, sting me." Let's get some sunburn going. Yeah, that's not a great look. And I'd like to avoid the sun cancer. There are a number of people in this industry. I work with dive pros, dive operators. They're continually worried about the dermatology and how the skin affects it. I'm lucky enough that, I find the products like Stream to Sea that not only are safe for the environment, but they work. And I make sure I wear them primarily on my face because the rest of me is covered. And that's the best protection I can have, is being covered. It's also how you stay safe with sharks. Because again, these look like fish. Don't do this around sharks and you'll be okay.
Yeah, actually, after the last time we talked, the gloves I had that I was taking down to the Bahamas had white on them. So I went and got a pair of all black ones.
So yeah,
So
I
I
get
have enough
involved.
disabilities now. I don't need any less fingers.
I do love my fingers. They're very useful when I'm shooting images.
So what do you do if a shark is aggressively approaching to you? Like, when do you determine that, okay, you need to shove them off, or what's the best approach to it?
Depends on how close the shark is to me and what the species of shark is and how you're going to maneuver around that shark. Uh, a tiger shark coming at me, this is too close. If you're here, this is too close. So if you're here, I can purposefully push you out of the way, just guide you out of the way. I'm not going to be indecisive. I'm not going to go, "Ooh, I didn't mean it." That's, look at me. I'm also not going to swim away from the shark. That's actually what I do to bring the sharks to me. I'm like, look, I'm not paying attention. Come get me. And unfortunately, they're pretty wise to that a lot. So it's really hard to get as close as I want to the sharks. That is my biggest challenge when working with sharks. And I do have the camera. So if a shark's coming at me, I'm holding my position. Make eye contact with sharks. They don't like that.
Really?
Yeah,
So they'll avoid the eye contact.
they
All right.
will.
I will have to remember this since I'm going to be in the water with sharks next week. Hopefully, I'm going to see a lot of them.
Keep your eyes behind you too. Head on a swivel. What's over there? What's over there? Looking
Yeah,
around. It's a
that's that's
360 world.
that's the only thing that worries me, is because I'm blind in my one eye.
Turn
So,
around.
oh
But they
yeah,
don't
yeah,
know
I'll
you're
be,
blind in your eye. I have
yeah.
been in very low vis with sharks before and looking around, they don't know I can't see.
Yeah.
So even in low visibility, if they can sense I'm looking at them, yeah, they're cool. I will say at dusk and nighttime, when they start their feeding behaviors, things can get a little interesting. So some of it's when you're in the water, understanding like if they're hunting in the evening and at night and at the early morning, that's maybe not when you want to attract their attention.
Okay, so then here's my next question. I'm gonna attempt to do my first night dive in like 27 years down there. Any extra tips for that when I'm diving in the Bahamas?
Well, you're probably not going to have any like bait in the water when you do that. So just
Okay,
keep
cool.
your eyes out, dive with a buddy, don't solo dive. That's what we do to get the shots. No.
Uh, now, do you dive all open circuit, or do you dive rebreather as well?
I'm an open circuit diver. I am a technical diver, Trimix certified to 220 feet. I have been to my max depth, and I dive side mount, back mount. I heard you were just getting into side mount. I love side mount for the flexibility it offers. It's not so good for jumping off of boats. I do prefer back mount for that. Side mount has some extra considerations. You have to put it on when you get the water, have a rope. It can be done, and it's done, but depending
Yeah.
on how calm the ocean is, that can be more or less pleasant of an experience. And I dive recreational and I dive Avelo. So Avelo is the new lightweight scuba system in which we use water to manage buoyancy, creating extreme stability and streamlined experience with increased dive time.
Yeah, which is awesome. I mean, so tell me a bit more about the Avelo Dive System, because I had Dan Orr on here and he was raving about it. He said you guys had him out to test it, and he tested it for almost a week. And he intentionally tried to break it and do anything that you weren't supposed to be able to do with it. And he said it was impossible.
Well, he's right. Even when things go wrong in the Avelo system, it's not an emergency when it relates to your buoyancy. So we're used to a compressible, inflatable bag, whether it's a wing or a jacket or however it's contained, where we have an air volume contained with us in our buoyancy control device currently. We call that standard system. And whether it's back mount, side mount, whatever it is, we call that a standard system. When you go down, it compresses and you have to adjust your buoyancy by adding more air because the gas has become denser and you're sinking faster. You can have runaway descents. Even more dangerous, runaway descents are bad. More dangerous, runaway ascents are bad. You have about 5 seconds to fix an error with a runaway ascent where the bag inflates or you lose buoyancy. And you have about a 3-foot window before your buoyancy characteristic in an air inflatable bag has to be adjusted for you to compensate. So that's not that big of a depth change. With the Avelo system, we use water to manage your buoyancy. And in doing so, nothing compresses when you go down. So you can go down to 130 feet and not have to change your buoyancy at all because your buoyancy hasn't changed. So you don't have to change the system. Yeah. So you just dive.
Plus, I heard Dan drop 30 pounds of weight total between the Avelo system and what he managed to ditch off his weight belt as well, which is huge.
Yes, it is. It's significantly more lightweight than the standard system. Whether you're using a dry suit or a wetsuit or a skin, in some cases, we also have flotation pads. So we have a weight calculator or a buoyancy calibration tool where we can calculate how much buoyancy you would need depending on your exposure protection. And sometimes you might need lift. So we have flotation pads for the system. This is 2 pounds of lift. This is 1 pound of lift to start your dive.
How do those hook up?
How do they hook up? They fit in with the back plate.
Oh,
so it's just part of the back plate because you want to be positively buoyant to start at the surface. Then we
okay. So it just keeps you positive at the top, and then
you add water to the system, become neutrally buoyant, and then you just dive down and descend. And you don't think about your buoyancy until it changes. Depending on how quickly you breathe, 20, 30 minutes into your dive, you've breathed up some of the gas inside of your hydro tank, and you become a little bit lighter. Not lighter in the sense of, a wing expanding or a big buoyancy change, just light enough that it's uncomfortable and you want to add more water. So you then add more water.
Cool. Yeah, I've heard really good things about it. In fact, I heard that NAUI's fully embraced the Avelo system apparently.
NAUI's team became Avelo instructors, and they are helping other NAUI shops also learn how to dive the Avelo system and become Avelo Dive Centers.
Which is awesome. And the big thing with the way you guys set this up, you are going to be selling the units separately, but it's mostly where the dive centers have it. You just show up and rent them, right?
That's the ideal world. We have more dive centers all over the world with all the agencies, PADI, SSI, NAUI. We're not agency dependent. We love that NAUI has invested and taken on learning to dive the system, and we encourage everybody to do that because We think it's a safer, more fun way to dive that gives divers a better experience. More fun way to dive that gives divers a better over time. Like heavy, intense on time and skill development and the finances, and with discretionary income being tight, people want to have fun and have a guaranteed experience. So
Oh
we're
yeah.
excited to bring them a tool that helps them get there.
Yeah, which is awesome. I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to trying one at some point. I know you said that you were going to be coming up in my area at some point to do some stuff up here. So I'm hoping I can squeeze a dive out of you on it.
Well, you're also going to Florida, where we have 7 Avelo Dive Centers up and running.
Oh yeah, okay,
So
cool. I forgot about that.
To get certified to dive the system's a 1-day course with 2 dives.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. And how much is the certification for it?
It averages between $450 and $550. And in Florida, that often includes your boat dive, the training, the e-learning, all the equipment. So, it's a package deal.
Now, do you have to get like recertified with it or do refreshers with it? For instance, if you're not diving a Avelo system all the time?
You do not.
Oh, okay. All
now,
right. Well,
your proficiency, you may forget some things over time, just with anything, and you'll want to reevaluate your skills. One thing we do when you take the course, you always have access to the course. So you can always log back in. You can take your quizzes. You can conduct your own refresher on the content about how to dive the system.
Wow, that's awesome that you guys do that for sure.
We want people to be informed. And that means you also get access to the latest educational materials at any time. So if there's an update, you're privy to that. You're not locked into a version that's 10 years old.
Oh, wow. That's even better. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And by the way, we're also on your favorite podcast platforms now. We are on Amazon. We are on Spotify. We are on iHeartRadio. We are on Player FM and Podchaser. All of the descriptions are going to be down below, so make sure you check us out. Thanks. Have a great day. And remember, grab an adventure and live. Yeah. Okay. That's a definite plus. And by the way, everybody, there's going to be a picture up here of, you should see a picture up here with the Avelo Dive System. So take a look at it. Now, how much are they as far as cost as if you were going to buy a unit separately?
This is emerging next generation technology that has not hit a volume capacity of adoption that we can lower the price yet. So there's a physical goods cost that we have in making this technology happen, so that the system as a complete package with the jetpack and the hydro tank, I am not your numbers person. I think it's $39.90 is what I think it is.
Okay.
So about $4,000. And it's a lot. Scuba is a lot if you want to own it. If you want to rent it, it's comparable to the standard equipment available today.
Oh, that's not bad. That definitely makes cheaper options because $4,000 is not a cheap investment. Yeah, for sure. However, hopefully you guys will get to the point where the price of it will come down just because of the safety factor of it.
Absolutely. I know people who'd be alive today if they were on the Avelo system. Yeah.
I mean, there's probably not too many divers who can say they haven't had a bad ascent.
Well, and ascents are, I think, the number one, buoyancy control is the number one cause of dive accidents. So,
oh yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Dan's got statistics on all of the BCD related incidents that have happened, and you can check that out too. Yeah,
and having a BC go wide open on you is not fun.
Yeah, I've had a sticky inflator, or you've had a hole that happens, or you have situations you have to manage. If in the Avelo system, so let me continue walking you through the Avelo system. When you get up to the surface at the end of that dive, you open the purge valve, let all the water out, reestablish your positive buoyancy. We also all carry SMBs. You know what those are. So
Yeah.
if you need even additional flotation beyond that and you're hanging out for a long time or you're separated from your boat and you shouldn't be, inflate your SMB. But the system consists of a jetpack. On the jetpack, we have a battery and a pump. The jetpack is an assembly that has that back plate and harness with the battery pump attaches to the jetpack. Attaches to the hydro tank. The hydro tank is a COPV, so it's a lightweight carbon fiber tank that has an aluminum shell on the inside. It has regular VIPs and hydro inspections. And inside that hydro tank is a bladder that's flexible, sort of like your hose material that's on our hoses. So it's flexible. It's got some rigidity to it. So it's not, just willy-nilly crushable. And that's where your gas goes. The water goes outside of that and inside the hydro tank. So the battery powers a pump that connects to a hydraulic hose to the hydro tank to push water into the hydro tank. And that then compresses the gas in your hydro tank. That's how you have space for the water. Because gas is compressible. Water is not. and then you become a little bit heavier with that.
So what happens now? Is there some sort of monitor that you have for the battery to know what your battery level's at?
That brings me to potential malfunctions and failures, the things everyone goes to. Because it is battery powered technology, there is an indicator on the jetpack that shows if you can dive it, if it's fully charged. We also have a voltmeter you just put on top of the battery and go, oh, it's got 50 volts. Cool. Or 49 volts. I'm good to go. So you check that before you go on your dive. Green is good to go. Red, you don't start your dive with it. Grab another battery. You can swap the batteries out in between dives. And in 20 minutes, you can have, I think it's like 3/4 charged, like it's nearly charged battery.
In 20 minutes?
Yes.
Wow,
so
that's pretty cool.
You can recharge batteries for a dive if you don't have a spare to go. Or you just bring 2 batteries because they're not the most expensive part of the system.
Okay. So not that much expensive of the system, but how much are the batteries for replacement? Just curious compared to other electrical.
It's on our website. You're going to make me look. I told you I am not your numbers person. I want to say it's like $100, but
oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, no, it's not crazy. It's just, I don't want to quote a number and then get told you gave the wrong number because I am not the numbers person. I'm the image person.
Okay. So unlike
$230 for a battery.
Okay, still, but unlike a Tesla or whatever, it's not going to cost you 3/4 of the price of the unit for the battery.
No. And that's why you buy a system.
Battery.
Yeah. Anyway, so if the battery fails underwater for any reason, you can't pump water into the system. So what happens to your buoyancy, Curtis? If you can't pump water, you just hover. Nothing changes.
Wow.
You can go up to 15 feet, have a safety stop. So from what we've talked about, when do you need to add water to the system, Curtis?
Just when you're going down.
At the surface to establish your neutral buoyancy.
Yeah.
Right. And then when you breathe some gas, so you become light. Not so light that you couldn't overcome the buoyancy. In fact, in your specialty course, Recreational Avelo Diver, we have the students empty their hydro tank underwater. So now they are light. Yes. And they have to swim to stay down. And they find that they can because it's not an expanding, shooting to the surface with an upward force. You're just a little bit light. Nothing changes. So you're a little bit light throughout the entire water column. Is that annoying? Yes. Now, dry suits are also compressible.
Yeah.
They also run away, and that's their own problem. That's unrelated to the system. So you also have the purge valve, which is where we let the water out, and that's how you reestablish your positive buoyancy. So what if for some reason the system pump keeps pumping water into your system? What do you think happens?
You're just going to stay neutral?
You're going to be heavier if you keep adding water to the system. but you can't become so heavy, you can't overcome that. So we also have divers add extra pumps of water and become uncomfortably heavy in the system. The other thing you can
Really?
do, even if it continues to fill, and I did this, they wrote during your training, I was an experimental diver for the team at one point. And well, somebody has to be. We had lots of
Yeah.
those. We did lots of testing. And when we were writing the course, one of the skills was to manage a pump. That was the skill, to manage a pump that continued to fill water. So I just kept opening my purge valve and keeping my buoyancy perfect. And they're like, no, 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 no. We want you to actually be heavy and feel it. So we've written that particular skill because of me differently. But that's in the real world how you manage it. You could stay your neutral buoy, or you could be a little bit heavy. You end your dive, and this is what Dan was getting at. You have ample time to handle any emergency as it relates to your buoyancy. Now
Yeah.
we can't fix regulators. That's the regulator's fault. If you got a free flowing regulator, that's not us. We do have DIN standard valves because it is a high pressure system. And as you know, as a technical diver, DIN regulators are safer anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a plus for sure. Now, are you guys planning on doing any bringing this system to technical standards to a certain extent?
We do have designs in process. So yes, eventually there are technical applications. We are trying to make it widely available in the recreational market. We are a small but powerful team of dedicated people trying to bring the joy of being underwater to this industry and help others come underwater with us.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a really cool setup. I mean, you could technically probably, I guess with some mods, you could even set it up for side mount, couldn't you?
There are designs in process that I cannot
Oh,
disclose for different applications that are appealing.
very interesting. Well, hopefully by the time that comes out, the prices will drop because, as you guys know, technical diving is especially not cheap.
The training is not. And, if you're getting into technical diving, my question there is how much is your life worth? So,
Yeah.
and really with anything, how much is your life worth? So,
No, exactly.
people who don't tip dive masters, was it helpful when they saved your dive or you?
Yeah.
Or potentially could save you? Would you like your dive master to, be someone credible or somebody who's just there to make a quick buck? So tip your dive masters.
Oh, yeah.
I tip.
I mean,
I'm
anybody
working.
who knows, I'm sure you've run into a bad operator somewhere that you've had some nightmare on a charter boat. Anybody who's listening, I'm sure has got at least one or two bad stories of like crazy stuff going on.
And I want to tell every diver out there, when I was an instructor, this really hit home with a student I had who was really challenged by her dive. But after I told her this, she goes, "Oh, I hadn't thought of it like that." You're in control of your dive. You're in control of your choices on your dive. And we can feel the human pressure to not call a dive. We need to be kind with one another. And even if you're not kind, it's okay to say, I'm not doing this. I'm not prepared for this. I'm not comfortable with this. Or let's modify the dive or change the plan or get a new buddy. Anytime I've had an issue, it's because I've done something I either wasn't trained for, prepared for, or ready for. Sometimes you're trained for something, but you're not ready for it. Or so just know you're in control and don't worry about what other people think. One of the big detractors in this industry for me has been that it becomes like, I'm better because I'm technical, or I go deeper, or I'm advanced, and there's a sense of like, hey, let's feel joy in our accomplishments and joy in the accomplishment of that new diver who's seen the world for the first time differently. Let's celebrate all of our achievements rather than diminishing how low a person is on the totem pole, because we all come at things differently.
Oh yeah, exactly. And I mean, not only that, nobody should be pressured into technical diving. even if you've got a bunch of buddies that are technical diving, don't, that's the one thing I can say is like, don't pressure into your buddies to get into technical diving
Or
just because you want to play with the boys or
even
go to a
recreational
relay.
diving, like,
Exactly.
I'm in control of my dive. I don't have to go, like, the weather is not great. I, didn't eat well or I didn't sleep well. I have a rule of 3. If 3, anything happens, big, small, otherwise, if I hit 3, I call it.
Yeah.
If, I haven't assembled my camera correctly and I'm having an issue and I can't fire my flash because I forget the stupid flash trigger every time, that's 1. So I'm just saying any 3 things that happen are a distraction. And we are also talking about the concept of rolling failures. So you can have 3 little things and they weigh on your mind. Your mind is your greatest asset in diving. It controls your experience, and relying on that training only comes into play when you use your mind to engage that training. So it's
Yeah.
important to be hydrated, well slept. We do a lot of traveling, especially as pros. I call it run and gun. Like, I'm flying in hot. I got to get up at like 4 a.m. the next day to put kit together, to jump on a boat by 7 in the morning, fill out a bunch of waivers, get everything. Like, it's a lot. So if we afford a little bit of measure where you can, particularly if you're doing this for fun, if you just give
Yeah.
yourself, like, think through and plan, here's the package I paid for, and you go, that's expensive. Maybe add on a day before, like, build into your planning a rest day or a travel day, in between your travel and your diving, a day just to kind of catch up and orient to where you are, to be present. If you're capable of doing that, you're doing this for fun.
Yeah.
We do a lot as pros that I don't recommend recreational divers do.
No, that never happens. Being an ex-dive pro, I can say that.
You're
So,
getting back into it.
I am actually. I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna concentrate more on scuba therapy stuff when I'm done, but I'm still gonna teach open water and stuff. And another thing, one thing I am going to probably certify as an instructor is side mount at some point, just because the advantages of it for disabled people. There's actually, it's funny because I now have 4 guys in the immediate area that are all getting side mount certified this year since I decided to get side mount certified. And all of them are, I think mostly we're all doing it for age, not for doing it, not for the ability to necessarily technical dive, just because our bodies are so bashed up.
That's from carrying all that heavy equipment. I wonder if there's a lightweight solution that could help you lighten the load.
Yeah, that would be helpful. So there you come up here. We'll arrange it on I'll arrange for you to get together with my wife, and then you can sit over a drink and sit with her and say, now you see why you need to buy one of these for your husband, right?
You can rent it. And some places, some Avelo dive centers, you can even inquire and see if they will set you up with a rent to own policy.
Really? Oh,
Mhm.
that's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes it more affordable then, especially if you're diving all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people, let's face it, they get certified, and then they dive once or twice a year when they're down south.
And if you're
And
diving
don't even dive.
all the time, you likely know that operator too. So that, inquiry could be easier had with them. Go, let's set up a plan or something like this.
Yeah. Because I'm sure they'd want to definitely see more people diving with them anyways, because it'd be, not only that, it sounds like it'd be a lot less risk on their end as an operator on a charter boat, for instance.
Ross Neal is a course director for Patty, and his favorite thing about this, because he's seen all kinds of people down in the Keys, is as an instructor, you know where your students are when you're managing a student who needs your help. Your other students, while they're kind of in your periphery, are bouncing all over the place. And if you have to direct your attention over here, where do these jokers go? He
Yeah.
likes it because you turn around on the Avelo system and they're still there. They're not up there or down
Yeah,
there.
that would reduce a lot of stress with being an instructor. For sure.
Your students are
I
where you
mean,
put them.
yeah, at least then you don't have to worry about them shooting up on you. I mean,
Yeah.
because let's face it. I mean, I don't think there's a single open water instructor who on the planet who hasn't had a bad student for shooting to the moon.
And then you feel like an abusive person when you're holding them. Like, we're not going anywhere.
Get out of here.
We're gonna go up. We're ending the dive. Yes, it's okay, but we are not going up that way. We are going up slowly. Just breathe. These are all things you've seen, right?
Oh yeah. I've seen some pretty crazy stuff. I actually had a girlfriend once that I failed, and me and my three instructor guys I worked with all failed her because she couldn't clear a mask. She could clear I'll rephrase that. She could clear a mask if she was diving with me, no problem. For some reason, she could go down, she could clear it full face mask, not a bit. If she was doing it for somebody else, she'd just total panic. Couldn't do it.
Yeah, that gets back to this is your greatest asset. So
Yeah.
I saw a lot. So we talked about how I started as a recreational diver, became a dive pro. Well, then I sort of got out of dive pro and I got into technical diving because that eats up a bunch of your time. And then I'm an image maker and a graphic designer by trade. So I've been working in photography and film and graphic design long before I took it underwater. And shortly after I took it underwater, I was on a shoot. I went to Tobago. I came back. And on the way, I saw that Deepwater Horizon oil spill.
Oh.
As a native Texan, that hurt.
Yes.
As a diver, that hurt extra because I knew what that meant for the ecology underwater, for the wildlife how do they contend with that? And then I had buddies, because I was a dive master instructor and I'd been diving around, I knew some buddies who were physically impacted by some of the effects of that. So
Really?
Yeah. But at the moment, seeing it as a photographer at the time and my camera being under the seat, I froze in my seat. I didn't do anything about it. And I
know.
I felt an obligation. I felt a duty to do something about this, and I did nothing. I looked at it in horror. I froze. It's that fight or flight thing, or I froze. I was like, I don't know this is big. I don't know what to do with this. And on my trips, I often get disconnected with what's going on in the world. Less so now. We have satellites everywhere now. But you're very present in the moment. So seeing that was especially jarring because I hadn't been forewarned. And having done nothing, I wanted to do something about it. So I went on that 50-state journey and I really saw a lot. I did not tell people what I was doing for 4 years, except for my primary dive buddy.
Okay. Nobody else.
Well, I went incognito. And I also wanted an authentic experience to see what diving in these local areas was like. I wanted to connect people with their local waters and film it and showcase it. At the time, I was like, making a book is the answer. And then I saw later the power of digital media, which is how I became more involved in the filmmaking side of things. Let's face it, that's kind of a digital experience, more than it is a physical experience of a book. And presentations, talking to people, connecting with people, dive clubs, people all over the world, that really helped further that story. I think I've done more in communicating about our local ecology and connecting with people in presentations than I was able to achieve through the book. The book is a way to open a chapter into the conversation. And telling the story is in connecting with people like you, getting to meet people at dive shows like Beneath the Sea that just happened. I wasn't there this year. I will be next year. I promise I'll be back.
Oh, cool. Because I'm planning on trying to go to Beneath the Sea next year. So
I'll be there next year.
All right.
This year
I definitely got that added on my list.
We had ice diving. I had Key Largo. I had Catalina. I had a bit.
And you had no voice for a while either.
Still want my voice back. But yeah, I had no voice. None. There was just air.
Well, it's better than when I talked to you last time.
Oh, good. Progress. But no, I went on that 50 state journey and I got to see, like, no dive shop gave me anything for free. I didn't get free spots. I paid for that. I was working full time as a graphic designer in a corporate capacity, and working as a scuba diver on the side. I hadn't made that leap. In 2016, I went full time in the scuba industry. So we're 8 years? I don't know. I'm not the numbers girl. 5, 9 years.
9 years.
Full time working in this industry. And I saw all kinds of divers. I saw all kinds of things. I saw all kinds of operator ways people work, things that locally in your environment about how diving works that just isn't done that way somewhere else. Like in the Great Lakes, the dive shops rent you things and the charters give you a boat. They get you there. But you have to bring your own kit to the boat. Yep. So if you're a recreational diver planning something, you have to plan for that extra time to get your kit. You can't jump on a flight and then the next day just go on your boat. You have to have that day. So lots of fun things like getting tanks arranged.
Yeah, because you're actually the only female to ever dive all 50 states, correct?
I'm the first female. I don't know if I'm still the only female. I know since I did this, it inspired a lot of people to take the journey and to work toward it or get it. Don't feel bad about yourself if you don't complete it. It's hard.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and
not only that, it wouldn't exactly be a cheap venture to dive all 50 states either.
There's nothing cheap about anything that I do. My fiber optic cable's $100.
Fiber optic cable.
Just one cable. Like,
I know.
It's an investment. That being said, there's other sports. Like, I'm glad I'm not having to pay to go to ski resorts.
Oh, yeah.
And diving's way safer. I'm not going to blow my knees out.
I was involved in motocross before. That's how I busted myself up so badly, was racing motocross. And diving's much safer. Cost wise, depending on what you get into.
Too. I mean, I was a college student. I paid for my way through college and I afforded dive training locally. I have over 1,000 dives in my local lake and I enjoyed it. So, it was about the camaraderie and the fun and the friends, and fossil collecting didn't hurt.
That's the one thing I like about living where I live now, is because back when I was a professional diver, for me to go to Tobermory, it was a treat because it was always like 4 hours away.
Yeah, but you live near Tobermory. That's a destination.
I know. It's awesome. It's awesome because this year I'm actually getting a charter pass and I finish work at 9:30 in the morning. I can be on the boat for noon any day I want during the week. So.
And hopefully I'll be there at the end of the year or early next year when it's cold. Because that's how we roll at Avelo.
So, well, just to tell you how cold, the water's been like 2 degrees here lately.
Wow.
So you want it that cold?
Yeah. When you can't feel your face anymore, you've done something.
Everybody I know actually that's been going the last couple of weeks, everybody's all bragging. I seen one guy who he managed to squeeze in like 30-minute bottom time or something. Everybody else was like 10, 12, 15 minutes. Oh, it was cold.
Oh no, if I'm getting in there, I'm going to suffer through it. I've been in water that once my hands freeze solid and they're like this, they're like this, and you're doing this to the camera, that's time to get out. That's when you go, this is not up. If you see this is up. And I can't move these anymore. Yeah, we're gonna go up.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to get some heated stuff eventually because I'm a wuss when it comes to cold. I don't
Yeah.
like cold. I get cold easy.
Dude, you're from Canada. I'm
So
from Texas, and I do this stuff. We don't
yeah,
like cold. It's a lot out there.
yeah.
But
Uh,
I will say there is water near everybody. There's adventure near you. You don't have to go far to have adventure. You can afford many more dives if you plan and have some time locally, make a picnic out of it, invite the family. Like, just be thoughtful and you can have more experiences. Plan that big destination trip. Those cost, sure.
yeah.
Destination trips cost for anything, whether you're going to Europe or you're going diving or whatever you're doing. Um, just be mindful about how you put that forward. Diving as a sport, I think, has a misnomer of just having to be expensive, and it's not. If you want to have
Yeah, which it
experiences
does.
underwater, if you want to go to Raja Ampat, yeah, you're going to spend some coin. So
Yeah, or
that's just
truck or
that's just how it rolls. Um, but like you were in motocross. Do you know anything about this crazy, like they have these carbon fiber like super mountain bikes and they're like
yep.
6K a bike. Like, you want to
Oh
talk
yeah.
cost, it's pricey. And that's just for a bike. And people go, "Oh, I'll get a bike and it's a low sport." And then they've got 6 bikes because, "Oh, I broke
Yeah,
this bike or I need to upgrade," or as they get into the sport and they get better. And I have a friend who was a diver who jumped into she got hurt too doing this, but they go like to the top of these mountains and do like crazy nutty stuff. Like,
yeah.
the stuff you see on the GoPros where there's like no, you're like, what are you flying? There's no ground down there. I don't like that. Like, that seems like I'm going to fracture a neck or a skull or do something bad to something important.
Well, let me tell you, I have enough titanium in me. I set off metal detectors. Going through the airport is a total pain in the butt with me.
Hmm.
So
You have your medical card and you're like, just frisk me.
they don't care. They don't care. They do not care if you have a medical card. In fact, from now on, the last trip I learned my lesson because I like for years because of my disability too, I would hide behind my disability. I didn't use a cane when I should have, and when I should use enough, even sometimes when I'm hurting bad or whatever and stuff like that. And same thing going through the airport and stuff like that, right? Last year when we went to Jamaica, my wife said, "Okay, we are getting you a wheelchair this time to go through security." I will never, ever not do that again.
Oh,
It was the only time that I have ever not had a huge hassle going through security and hitting the metal detectors off. And I mean, it's just crazy the extent that some of these border guys will actually go to like check you out, right? So
I go with, people ask me about like, well, what about traveling with the Avelo system? And I travel with my jetpack. In fact, I'm going to travel with my jetpack next week because I'm taking the Avelo system to Tiger Beach.
cool.
I'm real curious. I'll be the first person to ever dive a velo at Tiger Beach.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Gee, you're
stoked.
just racking up the records, aren't you?
I'm just trying to get some dive time is what I'm doing. And you do get a little bit more gas.
Do you?
Oh, well, it's the size of an aluminum 80 when it's filled to 200 bar, 3000 psi. If you fill it to capacity and you have a booster, you can fill it to 300 bar or 4350. So you have more capacity,
Oh.
and that equals the capacity of a steel 100. So that's nice.
Oh,
But I'm also
that's
streamlined
nice.
and I'm carrying less. So I'm less stressed and more able to move through the water, which means less resistance. No sail of a big wing going through the water. When we say streamlined as a tech diver, you think, "Oh, I don't have dangly stuff." But that's not really what we mean. What we mean is you don't have that inflatable wing with water pressing against you as you go through the current. You're more streamlined in the sense that there's just less of you. So you're not
Oh yeah.
catching all that water.
Yeah, no, that's awesome about it, especially at the pack, because you've got less stuff to worry about around you and stuff like that. I would find that way easier.
Yeah.
For sure. And a huge advantage, especially ditching weight.
So I'm going to throw, and this is heavy. Because I'm working in Tiger Beach, so going heavy, and I've got a 5 mil suit. Now, mind you, it turns out that neoprene suits do not crush as much as people think they do at depth. We've been all sold the, we have to compensate for, no. Dry suit, yes, different story. That's compressible. But I'm going to throw on 6 pounds to do this dive, and that's diving heavy.
6 pounds.
And that will be me heavy. I will not pump any water into the system. I will just go.
And how thick of a suit?
5.
5.
Because I don't like being cold. I don't care if it's the Caribbean. That's cold.
I'm wearing a 7 mil. I don't have a 5 mil suit, so I'm just I'm just wearing a 7. But I get cold easy, so I figured 4 or 5 dives in a day. I'll just play it safe.
You will not be cold in a 7.
That's good. I don't like to be cold. I would rather be nice and toasty.
Well, what I do is I throw on the hooded vest. Or vest. And that, your core temperature is important. Anyway, this has been awesome. I love chatting, diving with you. I never know where the conversation's going to go. I don't know what we talked about last time, but I think it was completely different. Hopefully.
Yeah, we had some technical issues last time, which I've gotten sorted out. So I'm very glad to have that done. Well, Jennifer, I'm going to have all your links down below to your website and everything, and the Avelo website down below. So, and thank you everybody for joining me on the podcast today. And remember, grab an adventure and live, and remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks again, and see you next time.